Welcome to When Stars Align, a love and astrology podcast that explores all aspects of dating, sex, and relationships from a cosmic point of view. I'm Meghan.
And I'm Kirah, and we're your hosts. Together, we're bringing you over 20 years of combined experience as astrologers. Each week, we'll dive into different topics.
From dating advice from your favorite experts to pop culture updates, weekly dating forecasts, and everything in between.
Let this be your go-to space for everything love and astro. Welcome back to When Stars Align.
We're here, better than ever, and I think more excited than I probably should be about shitting on the signs.
Yeah. I mean, and gushing on them too. We're definitely going to love on the signs the second half of the zodiac, but I'm really excited to shit on the second half of the zodiac.
I was gonna say, we're talking about what we're excited about. It's the first version.
Yeah. So if you haven't already caught the first section of this, I think 2 episodes back, we did what we love and hate about the signs, part 1. We went through Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And now we're coming for the second half of the zodiac.
Libra to Pisces, you better get ready.
Yeah. Which is like our section of the zodiac. Yes. I feel like we have a lot of placements there. So lots of feeling.
Yeah. And a lot of, self-deprecation along the way. We don't want anybody to think that we're speaking from a high horse on this. We're attacking ourselves when we're attacking you.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get into it. Right?
Perfect. Let's go.
Because, we have a lot to say about Libra.
I know. I already started getting ready. I'm like, Libra.
Let's do it. So to start, Libra is an air sign. It's a cardinal air sign. It's the beginning of fall. And it's also when the sun literally enters fall. It's a sign of debility for the sun. Because it's a sign where, the way I kind of like to think of it is the sun is about ourselves, our identity, how we shine. And it is very selfish. It's very, ego driven, you could say. When it's in a sign like Libra and like Aquarius, which we'll get to, these signs that have to do with the other or decentralization, which is much more like Aquarius, it's a difficult place for the sun to be. Absolutely. Because the sun's like, well, I'm used to just like pouring all this energy into myself, but I have to consider the other here. I think that's kind of where I like to start with Libra, is that there often is this insecurity around just like self-confidence and the self-assuredness. I find that is often lacking with Libras.
Absolutely. And people talk about them being indecisive, but I always interpret that when I'm watching a Libra in their natural element as they just don't want anybody to be disappointed in the decision that they make. It's not that they don't know what they want, but that people-pleasing tendency just shines through.
Yeah. And it can be grating. As I have a Libra, my Venus is in Libra.
And my Mercury is in Libra.
Yeah. So we have Libra placements. Ours are conjunct. I find I have an Aries moon, and I feel like that makes me butt heads with Libra placements a lot because my instinct, my instinctual nature is to is to be selfish, just to consider myself. And so when I'm coming out with Libra placements who don't do that, I'm sort of like, why?
Right. Like you're not playing your role by figuring your life out. Right. So now it feels like a responsibility on the people around you.
Yeah. And then I would say my number one gripe with Libra is the passive aggression.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of cardinal placements have this. Like it's not just Libra. I feel like Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, they all embody that passive aggressiveness. But Libra tries so hard to come off as a good person in the process.
Yeah. And it's like you're allowed to be like the bad guy sometimes. And also it's not even that you're allowed to be, like you will be, and you have to accept that.
Absolutely. We will always play a villain in somebody else's story at some point. But I swear they try to make it through life just never taking that
Yeah.
on. And it's like, we all have to get a piece of the pie at some point.
And then it's like, it becomes really difficult when you're not taking that responsibility of hurting someone, essentially.
When you date Libra placements, what is like the big red flag that you see when you're dating someone who has heavy Libra influence?
I would say I've dated a lot of Libra. Like I had this whole like crew of Libra dudes in college, and they called themselves the Libros. And I started calling them that, of course, my Libros. There was 8 of them, 8 Libras. I dated one of them for 2 years. We're still really good friends. One of them is living with me right now. They're like brothers to me. And like the other like 6 of them, I think I've like had sex with 5 out of 6 with them. Like there was like I've just been surrounded by Libros my whole life, basically. And I would say there's obviously a lot that I like about them, which we'll get to, but there's this insecurity with the self, and this insecurity with like just like being oneself and not worried about how that's going to be accepted by others.
Yeah. Immediately, I hear Abby Lee Miller's voice just going, and all of a sudden, I hear this agitating, grating. Like, my experience with Libras has been few and far between. Like, that cardinal air energy for me is so hard to put up with in a romantic space. Like, some of my closest friends are Libras, and I love them dearly. They're so much fun to be around. And again, we'll get into the good, but the aggravating portion I feel of dating Libras comes from this almost like poking the bear and then running away and being like in tears. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with what's coming up after I've done this annoying thing, because it means I have to admit that I was being annoying.
And I was the bad guy. I did something wrong. It's like literally pulling teeth trying to get a Libra placement to admit that they were the bad guy in the situation, to the point where they'll gaslight the shit out of you. Speaking of air, they will gaslight the shit out of you.
Yeah. One of the situations, I know that you talked about somebody that you worked with last time that we were shitting and gushing on the signs. I worked with a Libra man, and my boss was out of town, who was an Aquarius, super chill, probably one of the best bosses that I've had. But it was just me and this Libra COO in the office. And he loved calling himself a COO. Of course. Like would leave with his little white dog and be like, I'm a COO in Beverly Hills. And I fully got into it with him because he was asking me to forge signatures on legal documents. And I was like,
you can't ask a Virgo to do that shit.
Absolutely not.
Especially with Venus and Libra. Like, I'm like, sorry, I meant Mercury and Libra.
Absolutely. No, I knew what you meant. But I just got to this point where I was like, if it's not that bad, then why don't you do it? And his only rebuttal was, wow, I'm glad that I could come to the office and do both of our jobs today. Then,
this is textbook.
Does it, signs the documents, and comes out and flings them at my face. And I said, you have a lawsuit.
Yes, literally.
And fully walked out, never went back to that office.
Oh my God.
Him and his little white dogs probably still work in that same office. Just
miserable as hell.
And love being the supporting act to somebody that does way better than they ever will.
Yeah. Yes. And then complain about not ever being able to pursue their own dreams and passion.
But we love you guys.
We do love you guys.
Okay, let's gush.
Let's gush a little bit. I would say one thing about Libra is, especially at least like, I don't want to do that. Okay. So I'll just say one thing I do love about the Libras that I have been blessed to, share space with and coexist with, I'll say, is I'll say 2 things. One, they are the best companions. Like if you need someone to tag along with you anywhere, invite a Libra.
Yes.
They are the best
And
companions.
to make it so fun along the way. Like,
Yeah.
you'll have so many inside jokes by the end of it, all
Yeah.
of these memories, a ton of
They
selfies
won't
and
be clinging to you
photos.
the whole time. They'll be able to like branch off and meet new people or do their own
Yes.
thing if they need to. But like if you need a plus one, like a Libra is going to be your best bet. My other thing about Libras is this the taste. Like I feel like Libras really take their tastes
Yes.
really seriously. And so like I feel like my music taste has been so influenced by the Libras in my
Mhm.
life. Um just yeah, throughout my life. And like me and my ex Pat when like my first Libra. Um
First Libra.
and he's again, he's like a brother to me now. Like we're very close. He's married, love his wife. And him and one of the other Libras, Woody, the three of us used to live together. We were like brothers. I used to say I mean, I feel like we're brothers.
You're a Libra
Yeah,
by
I'm
proxy.
Libra by proxy. Little NB Libra. But yeah, so me and Pat, we first connected just through our love of hate to say it, but Kanye West.
At the time.
This was 2009, 2010.
I back you at the time.
Yes, this is 2010 when like he was, I think, like at his peak. Um, and yeah, that's how we connected. And just like through talking about music, and he's was really music, still is. He works for a big record label. Um, and all his friend, like all the boys would get together, and I got so sick of it and they would just like freestyle. It was just like the thing. I don't know if you experienced this.
Air signs can do that off the fly, though.
Yes.
Anywhere, over whatever. Like
And there was just a bunch of Libra placements. I'm telling you, like even the ones that weren't Libras had Libra placements, and they would
Libra
all
by
get together
proxy.
and get drunk. This was in college, and like freestyle for hours and hours. And it was like so much fun for them. And yeah, I don't know, just like the taste in music, the taste in arts, the taste
Mhm.
in style. Like
Yeah, the way that they dress is like
Mhm.
undeniably sexy,
Yeah.
attractive.
Exactly.
Like when you meet an aligned Libra that just allows themselves to be in their interests without
Mhm.
anybody else's opinion getting in the way of that, it's like, I don't know how else to say it but drip. Like it's like
Yeah.
everything they do is just so
Riz.
good. Yes. It's the riz, it's the drip, it's the
Charm.
my
I
God.
would say Libras are just that's what they have about them is charm. Like they can charm the pants off of anyone.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
it's
and
just a thing.
we forgot to mention too that they're Venus ruled. So
Yeah.
it's like beauty, love, sex, money, like all of these themes when they are in alignment, just fully amplifying throughout their life. And like oftentimes being the thing that other people are so attracted to them for.
Yeah.
Like they, one of my closest girlfriends is a Libra, and watching her go through long-term relationships, it's like she just amplifies everybody that she's
Mhm.
with. Like she is the reason that the people that she loves goes through glow ups.
Well, okay, this is leading me to this is a perfect jump off of what I wanted to say. Um, Doing research like on the ancients talking about Venus, there was one thing that really stood out, and I don't remember who the source text was or what the author was, but they described Venus as well, not to get too technical, but like in the order of the spheres, if we're looking at like all the planets from from Earth, Venus, it's like Mercury, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and then the sun. So the Venus is like next from the sun. And they describe Venus as like this filter for the sun that can take the sun's light and like filter it through this like pretty, make it pretty essentially. And that's through music, through art, like that information intelligence that comes from the sun. Venus takes it and makes it artful. And yeah, it just reminded me so much of what you were saying. And it reminds me so much of like Libra in particular. It's like the air, the stylized, beauty, essentially.
Even like on old digital cameras too, like how you used to have sepia tone and black and white. And that
Mhm.
was like such a big thing. Like, what are we going to shoot in
Yeah,
today?
yeah.
But then I'm wondering, like, I'm going to have to go do a research project on this about like when we had filters, like selfie filters, and like, I don't know, even like Kim Kardashian, such a famous Libra, and like coining selfies. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just think there's something about them being like the muse and the artist in their own life. And when you get to love on that and be loved by that,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, also they're romantics.
mm,
Like if you're if you're trying to be charmed and yeah, have someone do maybe some more of the like traditional romantic courting, like that, Libra is so down for that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they love receiving it too. Like they're not the type that chivalry is going to fall on deaf ears for.
Yeah.
It's like just such a reciprocity in relationships being, I know you don't agree with this, but the natural ruler of the seventh house of relationships and
Well,
others.
I'll give you that it's it's the equinox point
Mhm.
and yeah. Well, there's some I can see what you mean. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a relationship sign in general.
for sure.
Um, yeah, again, that's why they're such good companions and they're
Mhm.
just like easy to socialize with. I feel like they're always looking for what's relatable
Yeah.
between them and another person.
Yes.
And they're gonna highlight that as opposed to what's different, what separates. Um, and yeah, that just makes them like really nice to be around.
I know they make the dating period super fun.
Yeah, I would
Like
definitely say that.
going back and forth on dating apps. So the Libra are
Mhm.
like, getting the text messages in the middle of the day from them, like, oh, this made me think of you. And
Yeah.
it's like, ugh, I'm
Yeah.
wooed.
Yeah, which is why I stay away because I know how easily wooed I can be. And that's one of those signs where, again, I love you guys. I've been there and I've done that, and I know it's not good. It's not good for either of us. So it's
She
one of
said
those
it.
signs that it's like, it's not a red flag in that being a Libra is a red flag. It's a red flag for me and my chart and knowing, Kira, you're going to get caught up in those same patterns. The way it hits my chart is just like eighth house, square the nodes, like
Yeah.
Venus. It's just too much.
I know you talked about the moon opposition too in our first astro
Mhm.
compatibility one-on-one episode. And I just, yeah, I
Yeah, the
hear
moon
you.
opposition's tough. Moon opposite, yeah, Libra moon or Libra placements, it can be, for me, difficult because Aries is so me, 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 me.
Mhm. So are we okay to go into your
Yeah,
territory now?
I'm so ready. You don't understand. I've been wronged by some Scorpios. I'm ready.
Has anybody not been wronged by a Scorpio?
Literally
Let us
that part.
know because it seems to be a recurrent theme in the zodiac to hear that people have been stung by the venomous tail of a Scorpio, us included.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go first?
I mean, my daddy's a Scorpio. His daddy was a Scorpio. I feel like I'm going to be a Scorpio mom. I mean, I am going to be a Scorpio mom, probably to a Scorpio
Baby,
kid.
yes.
so, yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I would say to start, my number one gripe with Scorpios, it's not always that deep. It's really not always that deep.
Not always a bit of drama, not always the catalyst, not always something that needs to be blown out of proportion.
Or just like there's not always some like hidden motive. I think
Yes.
there's always this like, yeah, but what do you really, or like what's really underneath that?
Mhm.
And it's like oftentimes nothing.
Absolutely. As a Virgo with heavy Scorpio placements, I feel like it is one of those signs that just screams, are you mad at me? Is
hmm
something wrong?
hmm
And maybe not even saying it out loud.
Definitely not saying it like that.
Like
But
holding a
that's the
grudge.
feeling underneath.
Yeah, the whole origin point of most of their anger is just feeling like there is something going on in the background that is causing people to behave in the way that they do,
hmm
especially towards them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the victim complex on an unhealed Scorpio.
I mean, I'm not
Oh,
trying to shit on my daddy, but he's like very much that. I grew up my whole life like watching him be like thinking that my mom, like just always like being afraid that my mom's going to leave in some way and projecting that out. And it's like No.
And they're still together.
And they're still
So it's like
together for 30 some years. And he still bothers her about this shit.
But
Still.
all of this time that has been wasted over just being like, yeah.
And yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Dating them. I don't know that I have ever dated a Scorpio that was not financially struggling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to be the one to say it. It's always like money, power, sex, like these driving forces for life. And I feel like there is typically this like submission to money with Scorpios, unless they're on the total polar opposite end. Like it's either like totally money hungry, like your whole life is worked around money, or it's like, I couldn't keep the lights on this month. Could you help me out? And I'm like,
yeah, I could totally. I feel like fixed sign men in general can be that way. I think, it's the power stuff. I think a lot of Scorpios are not aware of. They're not conscious of the power like situations that they get themselves into and that they create a lot of the time. And that can be so irritating where it's like, especially as a Scorpio, when another Scorpio tries to like get one over on me in that way, I'm like, I see exactly what's happening here. Okay. I see, you cannot try it on me, honey. That gets me.
I remember dating a Scorpio that was like literally everybody's dream guy. He was a senior. I was a freshman. We did not get involved at this point in time. Like nobody needs to call the cops. But he like went away to college, went to some dance academy out in Chicago for a year of it, came back, like has the whole like, I'm so cultured thing. And my best friend was going to college with him and she had a major crush on him at the time.
Of course.
And he tells her in that moment, I'm sorry, but I'm actually like madly in love with your friend, Meghan.
Oh.
They do not realize how much power they wield. Like, I don't know that she ever fully in the 4 years that we dated after that forgave either of us.
Of course.
They walk around with their blind spot to the pain that they inflict.
Yeah. It's like the weapon of like Scorpios wield this weapon of being able to like poke and penetrate people emotionally that if you aren't careful with it, you can really hurt people.
Yes.
You can really hurt people. And I've been there.
And if the other party isn't aware to what's going on, like I loved when you talked about you and another Scorpio, because you're like, I see exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
But so many people do not.
Exactly.
So it's like, they make it so easy to get caught in that manipulation web of like, no, this is like your deepest insecurity, or this is the thing that's going to kill you the most. And like, if you are not conscious of what they're doing, it's just like devolving into a puddle. Like, oh my God, I am really insecure about that.
They can really, be harsh with it. And in such subtle ways, which part of me is like, that's like, that's part of the power. Yes. But I think, honestly, I think a lot of Scorpios are aware and they just don't care. They just, want to hurt people.
And you cannot
don't care about hurting people, I should say.
Yeah. And you cannot make them care about what they've done to you. Like if they're not on their own time caring about it.
Yeah.
Lost cause.
Exactly.
Lost cause of that fixed energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Another thing I can't stand about Scorpios. If a Scorpio's in a mood, everyone in the vicinity knows it.
Oh my God. As a Scorpio moon, like
especially Scorpio moon.
Yeah. I just want to apologize. Like I at one point was friends with another Scorpio moon. It was like there is not enough space in this town for the both of us. Like we were never meant to be long-term friends. And it's like such a deeply just interwoven relationship, because it's like we're both like
Mhm.
doing that same like
Yeah.
cathartic
Intense.
regurgitated
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, when we were both in the space of having a mood, that was
This
the end
is
of the friendship.
this is pretty much like my household growing up, where I'm a Scorpio, my dad's a Scorpio, my sister's a Scorpio moon, my mom's Venus and Scorpio. So we literally, now thinking about it, we're always in our own rooms almost all the time, because it was like having four intense magnets
Mm-hmm.
in one house. Like, you feel the energy, and it was a small house, a very small house. My dad literally lives in the basement. He's like true Scorpio,
Yeah.
like Shrek basement dweller. Um, my mom lives in their room. My sister's in her room. I'm in my room.
Mhm.
And we just like, come visit each other every now and then.
Yeah.
But like, we have to stay apart, especially when someone's in a mood. It's like, you gotta, you gotta like physically block yourself off from that. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of Scorpios recognize that and like purposely try to isolate, but
Yes.
a lot feel like, if I'm going to be miserable, everyone needs to be miserable, and exude that shitty energy. Um, and I'm sure you've experienced before.
1000% dating a Scorpio with a Scorpio moon stellium, like
Yeah.
it just ties into that space. And like, I'm trying to think of another prominent one, because I'm like, I don't want to harp too much on my like high school crush turned longtime lover.
I've
And
dated three with my same birthday. So,
that's ridiculous to me. Like, how do you even find each other?
well, I was born almost exactly 9 months after Valentine's Day. So there's a lot of people um, with my, like, born my birthday week.
Mhm.
Between like, I'm November 18th, so I meet a lot of people born in that vicinity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I will say it's like drugs.
Yes.
It's like an addictive drug, the Scorpio combo, where I know it's bad for me and I still am like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I spent my 20s like searching for Scorpio, and searching out like
You're just trying
people
to
with my birthday, especially.
yourself.
Literally, because it's like, it's so intense and passionate, and like it feels dangerous. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it.
Well, and it really does bring up the importance of conception too, because I'm like, no wonder you guys have this intensity and this magnetism. Like, you're literally born out
Yeah.
of what was going down on the day of love, Like, it's like, we can't discredit how much that fixed energy plays a role
Yeah.
in people's attraction to you. Like, you're not a moving target. So if somebody's trying to shoot for love, the likelihood of landing on a fixed sign is like bingo. But
Yeah.
it is all consuming. And I feel like this is such a good bridge to get into what we love about
Mhm.
Scorpios. Like, I cannot tell you just the pleasure of keeping the gaze of a scorpionic person and knowing you are the only one that can do it for them the way that you do it for them.
Yes. I fe I feel like we're gonna get shit for not shitting on Scorpios enough.
We did.
One more thing I'll say
Okay, go.
before I get into,
She's like, I need to sprinkle a little more.
because I feel like it's like the elephant in the room is manipulation.
Yeah.
Like, we talk kind of about power struggles.
I tried to get into the manipulation
No,
without
you
going
kinda did, yeah.
full.
But yeah. Yeah, there's this, I used to, okay, manipulation isn't in and of itself inherently a bad thing. To manipulate something is just to change it, like, with your will or whatever. I don't know the actual definition, but
You're downplaying it. You're like, it's not that bad, guys.
no. It's no, just like in general. But so it's like, if I wanted to, like, take a smoke break
Mhm.
after this, and you were like, no, we need to keep going. And I could maybe, manipulate you into,
Be like, come on, it's good for both of us. You
yeah,
get a break, I get a
exactly.
break.
Exactly.
Good
Something like that.
salesman.
So it's not always a bad thing, but I think that Scorpios, because they're ruled by Mars, there's this ability to really, take it to become really good at it, I should say, and
Yes.
use it in the wrong ways.
Because you start building trust from people when you're doing
Yes.
it. Like if you do it and nothing too bad happens, then it's like, okay, like I trust my Scorpio. Like I know that when they're asking for something, it's because that's what they need or that's what they
Mhm.
want before
Yeah.
it turns into just unending trust towards your Scorpio and
Yeah.
realizing,
Yeah, it can get sticky. I feel like, Scorpio as a sign, as an environment, is a swamp. And if you're down to come into the swamp and hang out, at the bottom where all the good rich shit is, it's a murky, sticky
mm,
place.
I always picture it as like the Black Widow's web,
Mm.
like just
Ah, I
has
love
this
that.
little like tantalizing thing that draws you in on it before you realize like, oh, this web is sticky and
Yeah.
now I'm wrapped up in it and my head's about to get bitten
Oh,
off.
I love
Like,
that.
oh, we're there. We're in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we're in it.
But it's a warm, cozy wrapping of the web. Like I can't start the love for them and not keep
Yeah.
going into
No,
it.
I'm ready for it.
I love Scorpio energy and I love like you talk about being a Virgo apologist. I am just like diehard Scorpio lover girl. Like somebody asked me recently, I was at this get together and they were like, "What's your favorite sign?" And they already knew that I was an astrologer. So I'm like, "Okay, well, don't tell anybody,
Yeah.
but it's Scorpio." And everybody at the table went,
Yeah. I same thing with me and Virgo.
and I'm like, to me, it's so clear as day. I think because I really love integrity. I love when somebody says something and then they do that thing and you can consistently rely upon
Yeah.
them to open their hearts and give to you and be honest about what they're sharing and follow through with their word. And to me, Scorpio, because it's such a passionate and intense sign, when you have somebody that is Scorpio or Scorpio dominant, they mean what they say. They're speaking from their heart. There's total coherence between heart, throat, and what comes out of it. Like, I
Mhm.
can't say enough good things about when a Scorpio is aligned.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I would say the trust, going back to the trust, like that's something, like the Scorpios that are in my life, that it's like it's just easy. It's just
Hmm.
easy to just have that trust. Know that you don't have to like tiptoe over certain things because you don't know, oh, they might end up telling this person I said that. It's like,
Yes.
I know a Scorpio, we're gonna trust each other. We're gonna have
Hmm.
that bond. Um, and I would say like you were saying, being like dating a Scorpio is, it's like drugs. It's like,
Because you know you're their one and only, and like the apple of their eye, just they they're
they're
lovers.
devoted.
They
Yeah,
are
we are very
devoted.
devoted lovers. Like it's very much that, like, I mean, if you're gonna come down into the swamp with me, I'm gonna treat you right.
Right?
Like I'm gonna make sure that this is gonna be worth it for you.
Yes, if you were willing to go there, I'm willing to do whatever kind of energy with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of my greatest examples of devotion from a Scorpio was somebody that I was dating back on the East Coast. And I was planning on moving to Brooklyn. And he full stop was like, if you don't go to Brooklyn, I will move wherever you want to in the world. And I'm sitting there like, A, what's wrong with Brooklyn?
Yeah.
But B, I think it was just because I was going to go off and do this thing
Right.
without him. Like I
Right.
was building a life without him. And for Scorpios, it's like,
It's all or
no, yeah,
nothing.
like we're in on this. Like even if you're not married, there's like a soul merge
Yeah.
that's happening. And so I remember buying a one-way ticket to move out to Los Angeles and he kind of stalled.
Mm.
But I think this is where, when you know Scorpio's manipulation, you can kind of play it back on them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like they're giving you their heart. Like they only manipulate in a way that they would also be able to be manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got on the plane. He had no intention of moving out. Like there was no set plan.
Wow.
And then in the middle of February, drove through a storm from New England down through New York, all the way across the country.
Oh my God.
And moved 3,000 miles away to be with me in LA.
Devoted. Devoted. I mean, yeah, I just think about my parents and my dad and mom, and they've been together for, over 3 decades, more than half my mom's life, which is wild. Um, and I thought they were going to get divorced like a million times growing up, the fighting and all that stuff. But they are still so in love. It's like so ridiculous to me. I'm like, are you sure?
Like, does it really last that long?
Yeah,
like, you're not joking?
You guys are like 8, old. And like I was talking to my mom on the phone yesterday, and I was asking her about, when they got together and all that stuff. And she's just like, yeah, like, I was like, yeah, but you like went after him, right? And she's like, yeah, with his fine self. I'm like, you're talking about my 83-year-old father.
Who is a Scorpio.
Who is a Scorpio.
So it makes sense.
But her Venus and Scorpio saw him at this wedding reception and was like, that one's mine. Told all her friends, that one's mine. And danced all over him.
Sagittarius icon.
Yes. And they've been together ever since. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Scorpios are great.
I think Scorpios are so magnetic, and that's so undeniable. It's like that charm and that magnetism and like charisma that just like brings you in, and you just want to be like viewed by them. You want to be loved by them. You want to be like in their inner. That's the thing I think about Scorpios. They have this like mystique, and you're like, I want to know what's, maybe as a Scorpio, I'm like, I want to know what's underneath that, Yeah. And it's like a little bit of that like danger, bad boy, bad girl vibe too.
Yes, absolutely. Like they thrive off of having a little bit of their life not make sense and not work in a traditional manner. But like they are, ruled by Mars. It's like all of these moths drawn to a flame. But when the flame says to this one moth, like, I like you.
Yeah.
There's something about you. Oh.
Yeah, it's so special. I mean, yeah, the passion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before we get too hot and heavy on that, we got to switch over to Sagittarius.
Let's talk about, because I have a lot to say. And you guys don't see Chad, but Chad is our audio guy, our audio and video guy, AV guy.
One of the only Sagittarius men that I like.
Yeah, and he's about to hear some shit. So I apologize in advance.
But we got to go in on him.
We got to go in.
Okay. First off, I want to start off with the completely unfunny way that they continue to be bullies well into the ends of their lives.
That part.
It wasn't funny on the school grounds, and it's not funny now.
Because why is my mom still bullying me at
my
her
dad
old
is
age?
a Sagittarius, and he's also bullying me at his old age. Oh my God. So Kirah's talking about how her parents are a Scorpio and a Sagittarius. Scorpio man, Sagittarius woman.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents are a Sag man and a Taurus woman. And when I tell you, they have been together since they were in their teens.
That's insane.
Like literally 15 and 17. They're still together now. I'm like, my mother has only ever known, like a decade and some change without this man. So when I come into this world, sensitive little being, all of this Scorpio energy, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear these things.
It's blunt and way too honest. I'm like, did anyone ask?
I just woke up.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. Triggered. To go back to Sagittarius as a sign being ruled by Jupiter, the biggest, gaseous planet. Just say literally the biggest gas giant. And it being a fire sign. There's this pompousness. There's this like filled upness.
Yes.
Puffing at my chest. one might say up on their high horse quite a little bit too much.
Up on their centaur.
And their centaur, like their centaur is high horse a little too much. And shooting those bow and arrows indiscriminately sometimes, just like everybody's catching strays when a Sag is around.
Was this joke about A-Rod having a mural of himself above his bed that was literally him as a centaur?
No.
Yes.
No.
If it's true, this is just full embodiment of exactly what I'm getting at, where it's like, you guys are a little bit dirty. You're a little bit dirty and you're a little bit self-absorbed. And I feel like they, as the sign after Scorpio, still try to have that whole like mystique thing. Like, oh, you can't get me. You can't lock me down.
I'm
like,
really smart. I think that's the thing
I'm
that gets
really
me.
smart with the pointing, yes.
I think Sages think that they're like...
the philosophers.
They think that they are like... What are those geniuses? Well, I think they're geniuses, but there was a specific type. Obviously, I'm not a genius.
I don't have Sag placement.
I do.
Okay, well,
my most angular placement, the Mercury.
Right. That's right.
And it shows, obviously. But no, I think that Sages, they're not all of them, because we'll get to the great things about Sag, but some of them take themselves way too seriously and their minds way too seriously. And they think that they have like gone to like, I've thought about all the things, like the next cutting edge thing. I've researched this, and it's like the most basic shit.
I was going to say, especially as a man, and I'm like, bitch, I've been having that thought since I was a 5-year-old little girl.
Literally, it's always that. It's always that. It's like, yeah, but have you heard about this obscure thing? And it's like, not that obscure.
Did you ever think about how life is going to end someday? Yeah.
So we all, have you ever thought about like, every time you're with someone could be the last time?
Oh.
You see that Orlando Bloom?
I'm like, that man has Sag placements.
I wonder if he does. I don't know his chart. No, I'm like, we gotta look.
Seriously, we'll look that up later.
But yeah, it's very much that like galaxy. It's like you've been stoned out of your mind since birth or something.
Truly. And I feel like when influencer culture stepped onto the scene, Sagittarius placement people were just like, this is my moment.
Yeah, this is my time.
Everybody needs to hear what I have to say, what I'm doing with my day, how I think, because it's so unique.
Yeah, I think it's the pompousness and also like the just staunch defending of certain things for like no actual reason. It's just like taking a side and then being like the spokesperson for that side. And then you're like, do you actually care? And they're like, no.
I feel like they are perfect candidates for the guy that's like beyond his ripe years and dating somebody 20 years younger than him.
Always.
Like, it just, that superiority comes through. And I feel like underdeveloped personalities just flock to it. Like the mutable fire
They
energy.
want to be people's gurus.
Yes.
They love that guru energy. They want to be the one that's like showing the way and
posting the
people.
quotes.
Yeah. The motivation, and then like the black and white photos that are just like really deep and like shows their sensitive side with like a bunch of books in the background that show that they read.
They're
really
at-home
well
library.
read. Yeah. I dated this Sag man when I was pretty young. I was probably like early 20s, and he was probably like 8 or so years older than me, and he was Sag stellium. So I just remember him having like 5 planets in Sag. And he was, you guessed it, in school going for his like 3rd degree because he just couldn't stop getting degrees at Columbia. And he was, I just remember like us like chain smoking cigarettes and him always just like, I would say something about astrology and he would roll his eyes and like, do the little like, ha ha ha, chuckle. And I'm like, well, you're lucky you fucked me really good because I usually would not put up with this.
Oh my God. Even the way that you chuckled reminds me of my latest Sagittarius who I met in Paris.
Oh.
While I was traveling there, I was staying in Montmartre and he owned his own organic fruits and vegetables storefront.
Okay.
And on my last day there, he approaches me. I'm having dinner by myself. And he's like, I think I'm in love with you. And I was like, do I know you? Like, that's the intro. Like,
Yeah.
come in guns
Bold.
blazing, Sag. And he goes, I've been watching you walk out of your hotel every day since you've come here. And immediately my Scorpio stellium is like, what the? You're not supposed to know where I'm staying.
Yeah.
But it's just that like intense, like,
It's
what?
like burning fire, just like the blaze of fire coming at you.
And boundaries are not a thing.
Mm-mm.
Boundaries are not a thing to them. And they're like, come on, like, why wouldn't you push that?
It's
like,
a Jupiter ruled sign. Like, what are boundaries to Jupiter? Jupiter has no rings around it like Saturn. Jupiter's just surrounded by posse of moons.
And constantly expanding.
Which
is one of the things that I love about them.
Yeah. I mean, I have a reverence, I think, especially for Sagittarius women. Probably because I was raised by one, but I would say like the number one thing about Sag is they're funny. Like, you will laugh your ass off. You will be like clutching your stomach. Your abs will be burning. You can laugh with the Sag. You can find joy and like excitement and spontaneity and like that zest of life.
Totally. One of my closest girlfriends is a Sagittarius, and it's like one of the only people that I'm like, I can count on her to be like shit posting about some crazy date that she's on with this dude that she's going to be telling me about the next time that I see her. Like things that out of context would make you feel worried. And they're just like, life is a joke.
Yeah. No, some of my favorite people I follow on socials are Sages because they just, talk about their crazy lives and the weird things that happen to them. And it's always hilarious. It's always so blunt and straightforward, and which makes it fun. They're just fun. Sages are fun people. If you want someone, one of my closest friends is a Sag, and it's very much like, bitch, I'm feeling like shit. You want me to bring over some wine? Bet. Okay.
Yes.
I'll roll us up a spliff and we'll just wallow together. Cool. Like that's a Sag. A Sag will drink you up, smoke you up, take you out to cheer you up.
Yes.
And I love that so much.
Yeah, because it's not just them wanting to have fun and be happy. It's like really wanting everybody else to get on that same wave with them. Like, I remember dating a Sagittarius a Greek Sagittarius, tall, had like the man bun. That was when I first got turned on to the man buns. And I was just like, we could roll around in bed for hours. And I remember one time fully like back bending off of the bed and him at 6'5" falling on top of me. And we just toppled off of the bed. And we died laughing. Like, it was like, there's no like, oh my God, like, I can't believe that we did this. Are you okay? Let me take you to the hospital. No, like, we're going to be fine. And this is funny as fuck. And I'm going to be talking about it 10 years later, you know?
Oh
like,
my gosh.
You never forget the times that you have with them.
They're so fun. And they're so open-minded and like willing to try everything.
Like, if you're in your exploration phase, Sagittarius.
Find a Sag. Absolutely. They are down. Men, women, everyone.
They're down to pick you up, to throw you around, to do the, oh my God.
And they'll ask you, like, is there anything you're interested in? Is there anything you've been thinking about? Because trust me.
They've been thinking about it too.
They've been thinking about it too. Or they've already done it.
And they want to show you.
Yeah.
They want you to get in on the joy.
They want everyone's minds expanded.
Absolutely.
Minds, bodies, spirits.
And I feel like dating them too really reminds you of how important interdependence is in relationships. Like, we can grow together, but it's so much more important to them that each party of the relationship is growing on their own, like running like wild steeds side by side versus needing to be codependent, interwoven, like taking on the other person's personality. Like, I've never met a Sagittarius that was less okay with turning into somebody else. Like, they are them. through and through.
Very independent. Yeah, that's a big thing as well. Yeah, I feel like I have stayed away from dating Sages because notoriously I always say every Sag man I meet I want to fight. Um Sorry, Chad. There's very few I haven't. But no, I mean, and I think it's just because I'm such an alpha. No, it's because I'm the way I am. I don't like when people, going back to the, things we don't like about Sag, going back to like the pompousness, I don't like when people like kind of talk down to me or act like I don't know something. And I get very defensive about that. But on the other hand, like I have had Sages teach me a lot and show me a lot. And I think that they are just natural teachers.
Yeah.
And they do it in a way that's just so, like digestible and understanding. And that's something I love about Sagittarius energy. It's like, if you want someone to like teach you something in a way where you're actually going to get it and understand it, and you don't have to like read a fucking textbook to understand it, like have a Sag explain it to you, especially a Mercury and Sag, if I do say so myself.
Yes. And it goes back to your 3-degree Columbia Sag. Like, they're the best teachers because they're also incredible students.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. As far as fire signs go, I would say the least ego of all of them. Like, really just wants to learn about life and the people that they're interested in. So if they are interested in you, you will get that energy. And if they're not, you'll get the loser, double loser, as if whatever, get the picture.
I feel like Sag, like sexy Sag energy is like a hot professor, like your favorite, like your favorite like professor that like everyone wanted to take their class, and that stereotypical like sexy professor, that just taught really well and it was also cool. And like if you ran into them outside of school, you would be like, actually say hi to them because like they're cool and you wouldn't want to avoid them.
I like immediately think about my high school pottery teacher.
Oh, hot.
Who I would like poke fun at and like call him by his signature. Like it would be like the first initial of his name and the first 4 letters of his last name. And I was the youngest one in the classes, Virgo, who started kindergarten at 4. Yeah. So I was like always younger in my class and always high achiever. So I'm like in there with a bunch of seniors when I'm a sophomore. And he fully gave me the award in front of everybody on like award day. And I was like, oh, this is fueling some inappropriate.
I hear you. Yeah. It's that sexy professor. Like, okay. We should move on.
We should move on. Of like, we're still at work. Okay, so next up we got Capricorn. We got
our caps, our goats.
No cap for real.
Yeah. Once again, does it have to be so serious? I don't know.
And also,
lighten up.
Like, lighten up, and you're not the best. You're not the best.
Yeah, I think that there's this like, I'll do it myself energy all the time with Capricorns, or like no one's going to be able to handle this like I can. And it's like, are you sure? Because like
we talk about condescending, and I'm like, every Capricorn that I have dated has been so condescending, always has to bring up some way that I'm beneath them, either by age or like where I was at financially or one day when you get to the point that I'm at. And also like that's on dating somebody 24 years older than you. But
my mom did it. Hey, she's still together with him.
It works for some. Maybe not with a Capricorn man.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, it's exactly that. The condescension. Is that the word?
Condescending nature.
Condescending nature.
That's my safe bet.
Because it sounds like I'm saying condensation. So no, yeah, the condescending nature. And I would say just like the depressing, like always having to like make things real, like always having to be realistic, always having to bring someone back to earth. And like, we're just like floating around,
Mhm.
having fun, being dreamy, and you're just like pulling that tether back down, like,
Yes.
don't you know that's going to cost this much money, or this is going to take that much time? It's like, okay, Scrooge.
And they're gonna hate that you talk about the money thing, but god damn it if it's not a money thing with them.
For
Like,
real.
I remember dating a Capricorn that at one point, like, found out through my own scorpionic tendencies that he was making 10 grand per, we'll just call it a show.
Okay.
10 grand per show, doing 3 to 5 of them a week.
Oh my God.
Regularly, like never a week where it wasn't happening. And I could not believe, like, I was dating him while he was buying and building a house. And I was just like,
Don't tell me you were like 50-50.
I wasn't doing shit. I don't play that game. Like, my 50-50 has nothing to do with what I'm contributing financially. But it was just this, oh, I don't know. Like, maybe I'll have to go with this tile, this linoleum, this whatever. Like, it was always just like the worst possible choice. Like, they love punishing themselves.
Yes, that is true.
Especially around money. Like, it's like, fucking live a little.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big thing. It's like the self-punishment. Yeah, I feel like it's, yeah, the depressing nature of Saturn, because literally Saturn, that's what it does. It pushes things down, it makes them lower, it adds a lot of weight, compresses, limits.
Teaches a lesson.
Yes. And I feel like that's how Capricorns go through life. It's like, I'm being taught. Everything's a lesson.
Mhm.
Everything has to be a struggle. And it really doesn't. And I feel like they're always striving for, like, they're always saying that they're striving for like peace and softness, but they actually are addicted to the pain and suffering a little bit.
Yes. And if you want to talk about somebody who plays games to test whether or not somebody else is actually invested in them.
Yes.
Oh my God. I remember witnessing, I never dated her, but I witnessed this girl in the dating scene, and the way that she would throw the people that she was dating through these mental loops.
No.
I was like, dude, you are literally the devil card. You are the reason that the tarot associates the devil card with Capricorn. Like, it was so manipulative.
Yeah, definitely that. I can definitely see that. Because there's the huge control element to Saturn and Capricorns in particular. It's like wanting to compartmentalize things, wanting to control things, needing that, like, yeah, that Saturnian wrapping those rings around things um, can be a lot.
Yeah.
But those rings can also be a nice, like, safe space that a Capricorn can create. You know?
I immediately go to like the actual addition of a ring, but yes, the safe space. When a Capricorn, I feel like we're not done shitting on them, but
okay, no, let's go. I'm down to keep going.
Okay, the one final thing that I'm going to say about Capricorns before we move on to talk about what we love about them is just this karma, this idea that they are the rulers of karma. And it almost goes with the realistic, which I definitely think is more pessimistic view that they all have.
Yeah.
Like thinking that being a pessimist is somehow being real about things. You're just bringing the mood down, A. But this idea that like if you wrong them, you've wronged the golden rule of life. And I'm like, babe,
that is so true.
Like, take a step or 10 back, please. Like, I will not disagree with the fact that like Saturn is the planet of karma. There is something about like the push and pull of life as an energy, but for you to think like you're playing God for everybody else.
Yeah, no.
It's a little too much.
Yeah, it's again the controlling element of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cardinal Earth. Yeah. They can, yeah. Capricorn is one of those signs for me, sort of like Virgos, that can be hard for me to shit on. because it's like a nice place in my chart. It's a very compatible sign for me.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of them in my life. And I think that my main issue with Capricorns is that I'm such like a dreamer, kind of, silly, fiery, fire water girly.
Yeah.
And I feel like they can be a little bit like downers essentially. But when they're not, I think Capricorns are some of like the funniest people.
Truly. Like they don't get a lot of credit for it. Like I think dry and witty and intelligent humor get missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
Like because it's not physical comedy or it's like super quick and in your face and like the stuff that goes viral and clickbaity stuff.
Yeah. It's
online.
like exactly, dry and intelligent and witty type of humor that I love. And there's this level of like, safety with a Capricorn too. I feel like it's like daddy energy, it's like they kind of got things handled. And I love that.
And even women Capricorns are like non-binary. It's just this feeling of like you're wrapped in the rings. Like you were saying, like there's this feeling of they've got it so figured out that I can kind of turn my brain off for a minute. And it takes you out of, especially today's society, it's so overstimulating and so based on productivity that like, even if they're not rooted in money, even if they're not rooted in the titles and the accolades, I feel like what Capricorns do strive for is just that sense of a legacy being built. And they really look at every day so intentionally. Today and the relationship that I'm building with you is part of the legacy that I'm building and I'm leaving behind. And I really, really admire that about them.
The patience, like the ability to think long term and to like, just to have that patience to not rush through things. And the integrity, I think, is a big part of Capricorn energy too. They're just so down to earth, and they care about building things from the ground up, including relationships. So that's something I really appreciate about Capricorns. The ring analogy, I always talk about it with my clients as like, Saturn wraps his rings around you. It can feel like a prison, it could feel like you're trapped inside of this like wall, or it can feel like you can look at it as like a playpen that's keeping you safe and that it's, giving you a safe space to exist within. And I think that Capricorns do strive to create that sort of safe space for folks. And they're really, protective in that way.
Yeah. And for anybody judging me for dating a Capricorn 24 years older than me, those motherfuckers age like fine.
Oh, yeah.
Wine.
They age backwards. They're on some Benjamin Button shit for sure.
Capricorn risings.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm like, just wait. Like your hot phase has not even happened. Like the people peaking in high school probably do not have prominent Capricorn placements.
True, yeah.
But like people who go through life and kind of feel this, it's almost like a growing pains throughout every chapter of their life. Like they take on so much of that internalized pressure. But what we all get to see is just like,
it's like refined.
Physically, but also like their life in general. They're so purpose driven. I can't say enough good things about Capricorns when they are in their purpose.
Yeah, you get the sense of the Capricorn when they are like passionate about something that like, oh, this person's actually gonna like do something with this.
Yes.
Like this isn't just them like fucking around. Like they actually are going to implement whatever this passion is. And that just feels so special to be around and to again, similar with Scorpio, to like be part of a Capricorn's like inner crew is like a big deal. I feel like
they're so selective.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like people talk about them not being emotional, and I just cannot get on board with that. I've never met a Capricorn who opened up or like I spent even like a little bit of time with and, like ask them questions that maybe not the average Joe is asking them on like their daily commute or in the office, whatever. And you just immediately see them light up about the fact that somebody has taken them for more than like a stone cold robot, like that's all they want is just a moment of understanding that the time and effort that they put into themselves is not going unnoticed.
Yeah. And then they don't have to be 100% like put together, have their shit together all the time. So I feel like a lot of, especially Cap risings, deal with that. Just like everyone expects me to be the one with my shit together. So that's the persona I play and falling apart on the inside.
Yes.
Ask for help, Caps.
I know. It's giving eldest daughter energy. And I'm just like, you deserve all the compensation in the world for that, babe.
Two of my best friends who are eldest daughters, they have Capricorn moons. And I've talked about them before, but they also both had eldest daughters. They both had, firstborns for daughters. And so yeah, one of them was born on Capricorn new moon. So she's like a little baby Capricorn stellium. And ever since she turned 1, her grimace came. Like she used to be this like happy, bubbly person, like baby. And then around the time she turned 1, she started doing this thing where she would look at you and then just like squint her eyes and just kind of grimace. And now there's just like a lot of, she just kind of walks around with resting bitch face. And I'm like, fuck yes. Like living your fucking purpose.
Honestly, let the people know.
Exactly.
Like she came here to
exactly tell someone some shit. She has Saturn in Aquarius too. So
love that.
Maybe we should talk about Aquarius.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Let's do it.
Where do we start? Okay. You know what I'm going to get into? Everybody talks about Leo wanting to take up space, be the one that everybody's listening to.
Thank you for saying this.
I used to be in this friend group with this one Aquarius there who was dating somebody else in the friend group. So I'm like, thank God, like I don't have to deal with this Aquarius man outside of like when I'm dealing with him. But was such a little instigator and like always needed to be the center of attention. And they kind of put themselves up in this way that's like, oh, you guys need somebody to be the one that's in charge. Like, I guess I'll do it. Like, it's such like a victim-y, me energy with them that I'm just like, you piss me off.
Again, it's a debilitated sun, The sun in Libra is in fall. The sun in Aquarius is in detriment. It's opposite its home sign of Leo. And so it has a difficult time being like the authentic, unapologetic self because there's this consideration of who am I in amongst the group? Who am I in the context of everyone else I'm surrounded with or in society? And there's this decentralization that happens. And I feel like somehow, some way that often I think that's what it is. It's the insecurity that makes it's this deep insecurity that makes them like seek validation outside themselves. And it is so fucking annoying. Okay. The number one sign, if someone's out in the wild, just like asking me to do their astrology because they see me doing someone else's, 99% of the times in Aquarius, do me next, me next, me next, me next. So and I'm like, what do you want to know? And they don't really know. They just want you to tell them about themselves. They want to be affirmed that you're unique and that you're special and all the things. And it's like, get a grip.
Yes. It's either this like kind of like alt, like I'm not like everybody else. Look at me. Like I always think of this like somebody like bringing a skateboard out in a big public setting and just like slamming it on the ground and riding off on it. Like I'm too fucking cool for this. Or becoming the jester to the group that they're sitting in. And I used to date an Aquarius who well beyond high school years just hung on to like, I'm the class clown. And it's like, nobody liked it then. Nobody likes it now. And I feel sorry for the fact that you're raising girls now because
cringe.
What a terrible excuse of a father figure.
Yeah, I think it's the insecurity, making it everyone else's problem, That is my number one gripe. And then, of course, like thinking that you're so much cooler than everyone. Like, we get it, you're cool.
I knew about that band before anybody else heard
Yeah.
of them.
Oh my God. It's like literally that in a whole personality.
Oh my God. I feel like insecure, misaligned Aquarians that try to take like a creative route with their lives and their lifestyles. It's giving like the songs in the back of Netflix shows. Like, this is so on the nose and cringy that like I don't know how you think you're gonna make a living off of this.
It's the cringe factor. I mean, again, sometimes you guys are, right, but clock's right. What is it? Clock's right towards the day. A broken clock is right towards the day or whatever. No, I mean, I just feel like, oh, okay, this is the whole like Aquarius conspiracy theory thing where like, I don't know what it is in your guys' minds that makes you think that like everything is a conspiracy.
Bro.
But it's really not that deep most of the time. Like sometimes yes, but like it's really not everything. Like there's not, everything's a conspiracy.
The first time I ever heard about Area 51 was with my Aquarius boyfriend.
Of course.
Who was also the first person that introduced me to weed.
Of course.
Took me down to a Kid Cudi concert when I was like not even close to having a tolerance. And I fully passed out and had to be taken out. And he stayed at the show because that's what Aquarius men do.
Yeah. Well, you were fine. He had to like do his own thing, I'm joking.
I was convinced I was dying. But no, that is like the central example that I have in my mind of like their conspiracy theories. Like it was just like, oh, well, maybe somebody laced this or maybe somebody's onto this or whatever.
I feel like it's because they want to be
ahead of
everything. So it's like thinking way too much about, what things could be. It's like, come back off of that little cloud, gently land back here down here on Earth with us.
Fixed air.
Hold your hand. We're going to talk through this. We're going to turn YouTube off. We're going to turn TikTok off.
You would be such a good...
touch some grass.
You would be such a good trip guide.
Oh, thank you.
The minute that you said that, I was like, they're all on their own little hallucinogenic trip through life.
Yes.
Kirah is your person.
It's going to be okay. People always say Aquariuses are like detached and like I feel like the aloofness for sure. My mom is an Aquarius moon in Saturn and like she can be icy. But I feel like I have an explanation for that.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I don't see it that black and white.
See it,
so I want to
know. The way I see it again as a Saturn thing, a Saturn ruling Aquarius. Aquarius is like, if Capricorn's like, this is also taken from Austin Coppock. He first explained it this way and it really helped me. But if Saturn is the wall, like the boundary, Capricorn is what's inside of that boundary. It's like the structures and systems that, are inside the boundary. And Aquarius is everything that's like, doesn't fit in. That's on the outside looking in. And the way I like to think about it is Aquarius needs a bird's eye view. Like that's just how they prefer to look at things. Mm-hmm. They're an air sign, they're a fixed air sign, which can kind of be related to like the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so they like to hang out there in this atmospheric place on their cloud and look at everything from a bird's eye view because that's just how they process. It's how they make sense of things. It's kind of taking it all in. And then from that outside looking in, that's where you get the outsider. That's where you get the person that's the outcast, the rebel. It's really about just being on the margins, being on the outside. And most of the time because you want to, oftentimes because you're outcast in some way, but most times it's purposeful because you don't feel like you fit in because you're looking at everything from outside in, and it's like you're seeing what doesn't work, and you're seeing, the ways that the systems that are in place don't benefit everyone. And that's where you get that decentralization with Aquarius, where it's like, what about all these other people outside that's not like in the center, in the 1%? What about all of us, And I think that's something great about Aquarius. But sometimes Aquarius is like way too resistant to like the mainstream, to the point where it's like you're pushing yourself out.
Yeah. But you made such a good point, and I feel like it's such a great transition into what we, or at least I'll say that I love about them, is like their ability to look at certain habits, structures, patterns, and societal norms and say, just because we're used to this does not mean that this actually works. And especially not for most.
Right.
So like they get coined as the humanitarians of the zodiac, and for good reason. Like they have no problem busting down all of the bricks that built up the structures that we're living on and living in if it doesn't actually work. Like I feel like they are the type that get born into reality to shake things up. I think that's why people started correlating them with Uranus. Like I'm on board with you. I've done my research since then. But like the reality of this is like they are the movers and shakers of society. And when you are basking in the passion and really like that heart-centered, purposeful movement or motivation that an Aquarius is ruled by, there is nothing like being on their team.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they are innovators. Like that's one of my favorite words for Aquarius is they see a system and they can see the whole of a system and be like, this is not working here. We're not serving these people. We can change this here. And they are all about innovating and making things better.
Yeah.
Holistically. And it's cool to be around an Aquarius because they are constantly sharing these ideas and these, kind of insights about around how to innovate things, how to make things better and improve things. And I just think that Aquariuses are like cool.
They are.
They're just like cool. And it's because they're like not, some of them try too hard, but like in general, cool Aquarius is like, because they're just being themselves, they're not trying too hard, and they just like, are in their own weirdness.
Yeah, when they're taking up space from an authentic place, there's nothing like that. And I really feel like the aloofness for them gets thrown around more often than it needs to. Like it's kind of like that low-hanging fruit for them.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, they just don't give a shit about what they don't give a shit about.
Exactly.
Like they care a lot about the people and the things and the causes that really light them on fire. I can't say enough good things about them when they're trying to make a change and trying to motivate others. Like they're the quiet cult leaders for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like one thing that people don't talk about a lot with Aquarius is their love of animals. People call them humanitarians of the zodiac. I think they're like the zoologists of the zodiac, whatever. Like I think they love animals way more than humans, to be honest. And I think there's, again, this association with like being on the outside or being like animals. They can't speak,
right?
Obviously, not to us, not in human ways, not whatever, you get what I mean.
Aquarius being like, yeah, they can.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? No, but I think that, when it comes to in this human world that we've built, Aquarius is always looking at how everything's being affected. And with that, animals. And I feel like they just have this special thing with animals, Aquariuses.
I usually, if I'm like going to a yoga class or talking to somebody and they're talking about how they've been a vegetarian since they were 5 years old or, had this epiphanic moment about other beings, sentient beings, Like I was just out in Arizona and the woman who ran the horseback riding ranch on the property of the resort, when we were done with the ride, I was like, "Are you an Aquarius?" And she just goes, "Yeah." Like not even, "How the fuck did you know that? I just met you." It was just like, "Yep."
Yep.
And yeah, they really do. They're just in it.
They're so weird and eccentric. And it's like a cool Aquarius, like most Aquariuses, if you call them weird, they're going to be like, "Yeah, thanks." You know, like they take that as a badge of honor. And yeah, they don't want to be like everyone. They want to be weird. They don't want to be status quo. They don't want to be basic ass bitches. And so that's something I love about them. It's like when they're really in their authentic, just themness, it's contagious and it's just really cool to be around.
And nobody that makes a better companion in bed for just staying up all night talking.
Yeah. I know we haven't talked about like the romance, like dating in Aquarius. Again, another sign is kind to stay away from because I've gotten heartbroken. It's my 12th house and they just have a way of disappearing, like a little too aloof, you know, a little too like poof, I'm gone.
Oh man. That was like my kryptonite.
Yeah.
That was like 5 Aquarius people back to back.
It makes sense with your chart.
Yeah. That was a fun time.
Yeah, I feel like, again, fun in bed. I feel like they're very open-minded and just like willing to try new things and switch things up. Just sexy. I think the coolness. I'm just thinking about some of them and I'm like, yeah, sexy.
It's giving like 90s rom-com where the guy with the like long hair just comes over and is like, you know, like it's just this very like Fabio.
Too cool.
They're in their head with this like whole explosion that looks like a Lisa Frank book. And you're just sitting there like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Like they're way better communicators foreplay, I feel, than like the actual act of sex. But
yeah, I could say
that's my 2 cents.
That's my experience too. Really good foreplay, really good lead ups. I mean, not that the sex is bad, but it's like definitely more about the experience around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're looking from the outside in.
Yeah. There you go.
They like to observe their own sexual experiences as well.
Shall we talk about like the biggest freaks of the zodiac? In my opinion,
we need a whole episode on this, but give us the trailer.
I mean, Pisces.
Really? Really?
You don't think Pisces are freaks? No, I think they are. I think they're the horniest signs, at least.
Definitely one of the horniest.
That's what I mean by freaks. Yeah,
for sure. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anyone with prominent Pisces placements that's been completely loyal. I don't.
Hey, me.
Listen.
I'm a loyal girl.
You are ethical with your ways of having more than one.
Yes, just okay. I know what you mean.
Most Pisces are not.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yes, more than one. That's super loyal. Yeah. Okay. Let's show them some Pisces. So yeah, my worst ex is a Pisces. I say worst ex because I mean I've only like seriously dated a couple people and he was one of them and it was a terrible relationship. And I would say Pisces men in particular have a really bad rep right now.
For a reason.
And it's deserved.
Oh my God. I've never met one that I respected. I'll say it. I don't care how many apology notes and how many grandiose displays of affection. I know you're a fuckboy.
Yeah. So I wrote a book about Pisces. So I don't want to disparage too much because I want you to buy my book. No. No, but I wrote that book while I was with this ex and being like terrorized by this man, basically.
How long were you guys together?
Like a year and a half. Yeah. And a little over a year and a half. And I would say the worst parts about him, I don't know if it's connected to being a Pisces, but what I'll say about Pisces that think most people find issue with is like you can be so delulu when it comes to love and put people on this pedestal. It's like, take me off that goddamn pedestal right
Honestly.
now. Take me off that goddamn
That's
pedestal
where
right fucking now.
all of the issues stem from. Like
Yeah.
when you create this inequality between you and a person,
Yeah.
it's either going to lead to self-destructive tendencies, like lying and cheating.
Self-sabotage.
Exactly. Or resenting the person that you're constantly looking up at. But it's like that person didn't even ask or half the time deserve to be up there in the first place.
Exactly. And that was a big part of my last relationship, was like he was writing me poems and like all this shit. And I really wasn't that interested. I kind of gaslit myself into being like, you want this. And he was also love bombing the shit out of me. Just left and right. And so I convinced myself like, oh yeah, like, didn't you always want this? But it's that, yeah, it's that putting you on a pedestal. And then as soon as you reveal yourself to be a real person,
With flaws.
With flaws,
Oh my
what?
God.
You're not a magical human fairy.
Don't tell me that.
And then you come tumbling off the pedestal, and then they look at you like you're shit, and they tell you you ruined their life.
It like goes from the pedestal to like 10 feet under.
Exactly.
And there's no in between for them. I feel like that's where when everybody's like, oh, they're such crybabies, they're so sensitive, they're so emotional. I'm like, more than half the time that's self-inflicted from their own games and emotional manipulation a lot of the time.
The emotional manipulation is real. I think that Pisces, their best weapon is making people feel like shit. They can just make you feel like you're a terrible person and that you are essentially like a dog killer, like equivalent to that.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good at making you feel like a bad person.
After they've made you feel like the most special human on the planet, which is like the most jarring part of it. Like, I'm sorry, but let's pull out the receipts.
Yeah, it's a lot of like dodging accountability. If you think about a fish, it's really hard to catch a fish, and then hold on to it. Like they will swim away at the sign of any trouble, any issue, they're gone and they will disappear in an instant.
The last experience that I had with a Pisces man, he was a lawyer and lived out on the West Side, like had all these things on paper that I was like, you know what, this is somebody that I could really finally see myself settling down with. And we went on date after date after date and finally had this moment where we went back to his and I was like, I really don't want to put the horse before the cart and like get physically invested in this if this is not something that we see eye to eye on. And he's like, I'm looking for exactly what you're looking for.
Of course.
Woke up the next day, walked me out to my car. I never heard from him again. And I said, I wanted to change the perspective that people wanted on Pisces so bad. I really wanted to do it for you, babe. And you just reaffirmed the beliefs we all already had.
It is, oh God, that I'm like recovering from that story. That
coercion. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Oh man, I kind of stay away from them because there's a lot of making them feel bad for you too, like siphoning empathy and sympathy from people. That also gets me. But at the same time, they have this way of making themselves seem like magical and beautiful and like, oh, let's just escape all of this and go into our own little world, our own little fantasy. And it's so tempting to like follow them in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then once they're there and comfortable, they're like, oh, I'm out of a job. Oh.
And talk about no boundaries whatsoever.
None.
They will, like water, just seep into your whole life. And all of a sudden, I'm like, why am I soaking wet? And it's because this Pisces has made themselves your burden.
Yes. And my one suggestion for anybody out there that's anticipating dating a Pisces or is in the dating stages with Pisces is don't tell them what your Achilles heel is.
Yes.
Do not tell them what your deep insecurities are. Don't give them the rundown. These are the types of people that I feel like all of those viral videos, like, don't tell men how terrible your
Yes.
exes were. Like, tell them how good your exes were so they know that they have something to live up to.
Yeah.
It's because they dealt with the Pisces man
Yes.
who used that information and manipulated them.
Wow, what a word. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually. Especially because I'm not dating right now, really. And it's like, yeah, it's just taking all this dating content and whew, that's a word, especially, yeah. Anyway. Um yeah, I think with all that being said, I think that what trips people up is in these relationships with Pisces is the fact that they're so fucking good in bed.
So good in bed.
They're so good in bed.
I left that situation just going, can we at least do that?
Literally, like, oh, okay, one last time at least. Yeah, Pisces know how to put that thing down. I don't know. Again, not gender specific.
Mm-mm.
A Pisces knows how to fuck. It's intuitive.
Oh my God, like making you want to fuck them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many like long distance crushes I've had on people, both genders, that are Pisces dominant people. And I'm just like, you can stay over there and be my little fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
They're ethereal. Like
Yeah.
they just float through the
Mhm.
world in this way that is so captivating. And I feel like as a mutable water sign ruled by Jupiter,
Yeah.
it's like just it's expansive and it makes you feel good and it's adaptive and it's deep. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many elements to them that I feel like when they're too aware of how good they are.
It's very like Zeus-like to me. And the way that
Yeah.
Zeus is mutable in the sense that he changes his appearance and he
Mhm.
literally just a fuck. Like Zeus is just constantly contorting himself just to fuck. And I feel like that is very Piscean as well, just like adaptable and mysterious and mystical and kind of appearing as this like mystical being in people's lives just to kind of take them on a fun ride and maybe leave them with like pregnant with like a magical being. I don't know.
I never realized that I was just looking for Zeus.
Yeah.
What? Everything?
Or Dionysus maybe.
Or both at the same time.
I mean, that's certainly what I've been looking for.
I have Pisces placements, so I'm like, let me get in on the fuck girl energy that we were just talking about. But
speaking of feet, Pisces rules the feet.
I know, I'm like, where is the video ending?
Yeah, we don't have to look at our feet, but just to say, like, Pisces placements and a love for feet is a thing. As a Pisces rising, I'll just say that.
Sucking on the toes, rubbing the feet.
Yes. Oh, my ex and I once, like, I think it was like it was like a Pisces moon. We were in Miami for my birthday and there was like a hot tub. He is Pisces. I'm a Pisces rising. There was a hot tub in the Airbnb and I like poured all this like Pisces like materia, like magical materia in it. And we got in the bathtub and immediately started rubbing each other's feet. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, I love it.
Too good. Yeah, it's very sensual and it's very intuitive. And I think that's like the special part about sex with a Pisces is like you don't really need to say much because they can just they feel their way around you, their hands, their mouth. And I'll also say like just emotionally, romantically being with a Pisces, you will never feel more seen. Like you'll
Totally.
never feel more accepted and like genuinely loved on a soul level. They reflect all the best parts of you back to you, I think.
Yes. It's like most people don't want the chocolate covered strawberries and the rose petals on the bed. But if you did want that or anything else, a Pisces has already intuited all of it. Like it gives the girlies or the people that want to just have their partner figure it out with them without them having to give them a playbook.
Yeah.
Pisces just fills that void so perfectly. And I also feel like that's why they're so addictive to be with.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they just make you feel like you're in an escape, like you're in a retreat or in a fantasy when you're with the Pisces. And that is addicting in and of itself. Like, who wants to live in reality? It's like, you can be fucking a Pisces. Like,
I remember dating a Pisces man and we went out to a winery in Malibu and we got so drunk and we literally called like an Uber Comfort or whatever, like the bigger cars, like an Uber Black. And I remember we got onto the highway and like had buttered the guy driving up enough to just be like, love you, like we're cool, whatever. And then unbuckled our seatbelts at the same time and just wet making out all in the back seat.
Speaking of wet,
Oh my God. I just, your whole body signals to you like, I'm ready when you're around.
And you melt. And you melt into each other. And lots of moisture with the Pisces.
That's good.
I think we did the zodiac.
I think we did all of the zodiac.
I think I'm like, who didn't we do in the zodiac?
Thank you guys for coming and watching us shit all over the zodiac.
Sorry. We didn't have to come anywhere. We gotta go. It was so great. So great doing this with you guys. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to When Stars Align. You can catch us every Tuesday for new weekly episodes.
Be sure to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a review to help more people find us.
If you have questions about your love life that you're interested in us answering on a future episode, be sure to submit them in the link in the show notes.
This podcast was created for Stars Align dating app. Produced by Meghan and Kirah and edited by Chad the Maverick.